So today we're looking at the defense reduction debuff. I want to put it on when I'm fighting Semram so I can do more damage. Just going to go through all the champions that I've found that can apply this debuff. Hello and welcome, I'm Mystical, this is Mystical Gaming, we're back into Watcher of Realms and I want to do more damage on Semra. That's my goal. How am I going to do this? So there's a couple of ways I can do it. I can go and pull a lot of crystals and hope I get some better champions and they can go into my pool and that will give me a better score. That's one way. I can pull lots of champions and make sure the good ones that I've got have then got their awakenings done. That will get me a better score as well. I can go and farm a lot of gear, farm that level up that gear, and I can do it that way. That's another way to do it. Essentially the way I'm going to try and do it is I'm going to put defense reduction on the boss and hopefully that will aid me in getting a better score. So that's my plan, at least anyway. So to do that I've gone through all the champions, I've sorted out all the ones that have got defense reduction on them, and then we've got a bit of a tier list going on. Not really a tier list, okay, it's not that well thought out or anything like that. So but essentially we're going to go through the champions that have got them. If I've forgotten a champion, I'm sorry about that. Put it down in the comments below and if they're any good or not. And is this a good idea? I mean, do you use it? Do you not? Let's a bit of a look on that. So the first one, Arya, she has got defense reduction on her. So unfortunately she's a legendary. She doesn't seem to be that common to pull. So you do have to pull her to actually be able to use her. Now, it just gets worse from there because you then need to pull her again because the defense reduction is on her A1. So it's not a one-time thing. Now, once you've got it, she does do defense reduction. It goes on for 5 seconds. Now, it's defense minus 10%. So 10% of the defense is dropped and that goes on for 5 seconds. And it's every time she does damage with her circular blades. Now, I haven't got to test this out. I don't know if every attack she does with her circular blades or not, or whether this is just part of her effect or not. So I don't think it's on her basic attack, otherwise I'm sure it does say basic attack. So it seems to be not only do you have to pull her, then pull her again, there does seem to be limitations on when it will actually trigger. Now, second from bottom, I feel Magnus. Here he is. Looks absolutely brilliant. He suffers from the same problem himself. It is A1. So there's defense reduction. He puts it straight on and on enemies in range when lava flow is in effect, which is fantastic. So every time lava flow is in effect, this goes on. Absolutely brilliant, except for lava flows is ultimate. So it's going to be on for 12 seconds, which is great, but then you can have a downtime of 900 rage, so however long it takes you to build up that rage again before you can put it back on. Now the next thing is you might be able to put it on straight away, or you might have some time in between, or you might be able to trigger it. So it's sort of realistically how good you can actually make this. Now let's scoot down to someone who going to be an absolute disaster. Yeah, I should have put her bottom really. So there's not often you find her at the bottom of some lists, but for this she's absolutely bottom. I feel she's worse than the others because she puts it on. It is minus 10%. But it's on his passive, which is all seems brilliant, but it's from the bounce. So she attacks someone, then that attack bounces to someone else, and it's that someone else who gets a defense reduction. It's not the target. So we have done a little play test. We'll run a quick clip. So chuck her into a quick fight with Semra, and we'll just fire off her skills and just see what happens. So here's a boss. Place her down, firing away. No debuff on the boss. Just kick off the ultimate just to be sure. There we go. It's not attached to that. Doesn't go on. So there we go. We can see that it doesn't go on the boss. Unlike everyone else, you'd expect to see it. It doesn't appear there. So she should be at the bottom. So sorry about that. Yeah, the worst one in this case. That's it. Absolutely useless, or at least for Semram. For other stuff she's absolutely brilliant, but she does have a weakness, and this is it. It goes on the bounce target, it would appear, not the actual boss. Now it's not just down to legendaries that have got this skill, we also have some epics. First epic up is Maul. Maul can put it on. There we go, it's on his passive, but it's every 25 seconds he hits his passive, and then he would put it on for 3 seconds, and the effect lasts for 8. Okay, so That's about it. He only has an 8-second window that comes around every 25 seconds, and he would only put it on for 3 seconds. So it's not absolutely brilliant. The best you would get it on, I suppose, is 9 seconds out of every 25. But as you get skills in him and that sort of thing, you could book it up and make it slightly shorter, but it's not fantastic, and it's auto, so you're not going to be able to time it, and he doesn't do damage that's single target. He's quite AoE focused. So also not brilliant. Now let's move up a gear. So Bruna, here he is. Now got some really good news. It's on his A3, but he is a epic, so we can get there relatively easy. But it is a defense minus 15%. So the minus 10% that we saw before was like the smaller version. This is minus 15. We get another 5% defense reduction out of it. Now that's where the good news stops. So although he's an epic, so we can get to his A3 relatively easy, it does come off all types of attack on the enemy, lasting for 10 seconds. That's good, but he is a 15% chance of putting it on there, so it's not guaranteed it's going to go on. You've got to do 6 or 7 attacks, I suppose, to actually get enough chances for that 15% to turn up. And he's really slow, so you'd have to build him with a lot of attack speed. And I just don't see him as being brutally worth it. I don't think he does enough damage to get a spot in your team, and then he applies this as well. So he's more sort of AoE focused. That's a shame. Now, there is actually a legendary that does it, and a legendary that people don't want to pull. But now he might have a place in the game because he does defense reduction. So can we use the man himself? That's always a disaster to pick. No, we can't, because it's on his A3, so you have to be disappointed at least 4 times to be able to get it. It is a minus 15, so that is a bonus, but it's on marked targets. So how does he mark a target? Well, that's off his ultimate. His ultimate marks the targets for us, or at least his ultimate when it goes off. He has a passive attached to his ultimate, so his ultimate goes off. Then that kicks in his passive, which says when his ultimate's going off, he will actually mark these targets. So very small window there for when his ultimate is going off. Then you need 600 rage again before you can get it off. It's just on auto as well. So yeah, he's still a nightmare. He still hasn't found a home. You know, fingers crossed one day he does, but this is not it. Right, let's get on with the list. So there are people, and here is the dude himself. Look at this. Look, he is a beast. He's a nightmare lord, and he does defense reduction, and look at it. It is defense reduction 20%. So this is the big bad boy of defense reduction. 20% is a max we can have. So there's a medium one of 15% or a normal, I'm not sure how you want to term it, and there's a diddy one of 10%. So he does a 20%, and he inflicts each attack and inflicts this on the target for 5 seconds. So it gone for 5 seconds. He could not attack for another 5 seconds. That's not likely to happen. So this is always going to be on. It is as good as it gets, I think, for defense reduction. Sort of. He is a defender, so I don't know how much damage he does, but he does come with a Lord skill, and he's a Lord, so he's not easy to get. So there are some issues with him. So I think there are some better options. Don't think, oh no, I've got to have Torodor, because you don't have to have him. There are some other options, but it is a really good option. But I think you might have to build a team around him with part of his Lord skill and that sort of thing. And I don't have him, so I have no idea if he can crank out the damage. But he should be able to crank out the damage. He looks like he can hit you. If I got hit by him, I would think this is going to smart. So I would imagine he can do a lot of damage. Right, onwards and upwards. So ideally, what do we want? We want people who are fighters or marksmen, so they fit straight into the DPS slot, and we want people who aren't lords. Here's someone that most people have got, Lust. Did we know that she has defense reduction? Unfortunately, they've put it behind her A1, so you need 2 lots of Lust, and then they put it behind a caveat that you need Sinful Lash to go off. Now, it is the bad boy, it is the big 20%. You do need to put Sinful Lash on every time. So we'll have a look at her talent for every 2 ultimates activated by faction allies. So that's anywhere in the Nightmare faction. You'd have to build a Nightmare faction around her if you're going to use her. So you've then got to trigger 2 ultimates, and then it goes off. But it does include her, so you can include her ultimate in that as well. So possibly if you've got 2 lusts. you could get this to work and you build a team around it. So yes and no, it's probably not ideal at all, realistically. So probably back to Torodor. Who knows? Depends how it works for you. But then with Torodor, you'd probably still build a nightmare team, but it'd probably be better off for you. So anyone else we can put in there? Actually, there are. Right, there she is, Estrid. Now, this is absolutely awesome. She has it straight up on a passive. It has defense reduction, and it is the big defense reduction. It is the minus 20%. Goes on for 5 seconds. Now, unfortunately, there's only a 20% chance of inflicting it. So let's assume she does sort of 5 attacks, and then of one of those, they would get it off. Her talent, each basic attack has a 25% chance to trigger another attack. So there would be 2, so that would multiply it in. So I'd build her with a bit of speed, but I think, on the whole, Estrid, absolutely brilliant choice. She's got to be up there as possibly the best defense reduction. She's an epic, so she's much easier to get. That being said, I don't have her. I don't. She's one of the only few epics I don't have. I really want her now. Look at that, it's absolutely brilliant. She'd slot straight into your team. So yeah, you can build her out. She's going to put it on for you. She does burst damage. Absolutely fantastic for that role. Arguably the best, but I think she's probably second best because Ares. Ares applies basic attack, applies defense reduction, and he applies the full minus 20% defense. So building full on attack, and he can go on the boss, and it goes on for 3 seconds. It's not like he's not going to attack for 3 seconds. There's no worries about him missing it or anything like that. He's going to go straight on. That will be a permanent debuff on the boss. Now he also gets a little bit better. So worst case scenario, if you build him with no speed, he attacks every 2.5 seconds or 2.6 seconds, so he will always apply that. Now he also does a vulnerability physical damage, so occasionally he's going to add that too. They do stack, they're not one removing the other, so you'd have defense reduction and the vulnerability to physical damage. So I think he is absolutely top draw for that slot if you're looking for someone to do defense reduction. So I did have in, so that's a bonus for me, but I don't have an Estrid. And ideally you'd want 2 of them, so you'd want them in you know, 1 in each team or 1 in each key, so to speak. So that would be the ideal. But essentially, I think he is top tier for defense reduction. That's what I'm going for. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build my team out and I'm going to apply the defense reduction. That's what I'm planning for. So have I missed anyone? That's the first thing. If I have, please put them down in the comments below. If there is someone else you think I misjudged or you think they're better than that, Torodor stands out. I don't have him, haven't played with him, so, and I'm not on the test server, so I can't see how good he is at applying this damage. But he's a lord, that makes it kind of harder to get. So do you think it is worthwhile putting defense reduction on Semram, or do you not bother? Do you just go straight up building people much more attack heavy? So let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for your time. I'll see you in a video again soon. Cheers, goodbye.